Hi there, Mark here from Coachbetter, and welcome to another one of our World Cup previews. Tonight we're going to look at the big battle, a much anticipated clash between France and England in the quarterfinal. What we're going to try and do is put ourselves in the shoes of the head coaches and work out what are they thinking about to give their teams the best chance of winning the match. So, from a tactical perspective, the teams are very much similar in terms of how they've set up so far this tournament. Both of the back line of four, both of the midfield three, and both of the front three. The only difference being, in midfield, France will more likely play with 2 6s and 1 10, whereas England will play with 1 6 and 2 8s. There's a lot of talk in the English media of whether England might revert to a back five, which they've adopted over the course of Gareth's tenure, particularly to their advantage at the European Championships. Or might they even revert to turning the triangle upside down in midfield, so they play like France with 2 6s and 1 10. However, always with a football coach, you've got to consider how much do you adapt your team to manage the opposition's strengths versus how much do you push your strengths and not worry too much about the opposition. And I think that's a debate that both coaches will be having. That's why, in my view, I think England will stay with the formation they've used so far. A lot of the talk so far before the game has been this battle between Mbappe and Kyle Walker. And this is one of the key reasons why I think England will stick with what they've been doing so far. Because not only have they got to defend that situation, prevent that situation happening, but they also want to try and expose France in the spaces that Mbappe leaves, particularly on transition. So, if we look at the start of the tournament, England started in their first 2 games with Kieran Trippier playing left back. And although they were both similar in positions and playing the same system, their individual profiles were very different. What we saw from Trippier is a fullback who gets forward a lot with overlapping runs, wants to get himself in a position where he's high up the field to be able to cross the ball. You also, on the inside of him, had Jude Bellingham, who also had a tendency to get forward. So what we saw in the tournament was moments like this. And certainly in the US game, England would have learned a valuable lesson. What we saw was that both the 8, Bellingham, and the fullback, Trippier, would get ahead of the ball, which meant if they lost the ball, Pulisic, the US's left winger, would expose England on the counter-attack. And what we saw in this situation here was only 8 seconds later, the US created a very good situation to potentially open the scoring. And we can see here, using the Athletics pass maps, the difference in terms of how high Trippier is compared to Luke Shaw on the left-hand side. You've even got him in line pretty much with the number 9 striker, Harry Kane. What's changed for England since Kyle Walker's come into the team is the positioning. And what you can see in this pass map is how deep Walker is compared to Shaw on the opposite side. Which means on the right-hand side, England now have a lot more defensive stability and balance and structure in what's called their rest defence. So when they're attacking behind the ball, they've always got a very good structure to prevent and eliminate counter-attacks, which is going to be super important in this game against the French team, who have proved themselves to be absolutely devastating on the counter-attack. Also for England, one of their big attacking weapons is maximising the roles and the relationships between their 8s and their wide players. What we've seen a lot is both Bellingham and Henderson and Mount in games run beyond Harry Kane and beyond the wide players to try and get into situations where they can cross or get on the end of a cross. And if England were to make any tactical change, this strength of their game might be lessened. So I'm pretty sure they'll be thinking, we want to try and make sure that we can hurt France as much as possible in the space that Mbappe leaves by not probably defending as much as a normal winger would do. And as we talked about one of our previous talks, we've seen the impact of Bellingham and Henderson getting beyond Harry Kane, getting beyond the wingers to great effect. This was one of the situations that resulted in the England goal, and obviously it did also lead to the opening goal for England, where Bellingham ran beyond Harry Kane to actually cross for Jordan Henderson to open the scoring. Why Henderson? Well, Henderson's got experience and some incredible game intelligence. And where he's going to have to be super clever on the weekend is deciding when and where to make his runs. Because if we look at the situation here, this is a normal position we'll find Mbappe when England are in the France defensive third and their own attacking third. In that half and half position. Not quite fully back as a defender, not quite fully up as a forward. Knowing if France regain the ball and they can find him, it's going to be a very dangerous situation for England. Now, England so far this tournament have been very effective at counter-pressing. So i.e., when they lose the ball, trying to get it back as quickly as possible to stop a counter-attack. They've also been smart and used their tournament experience with making tactical fouls at the right time. So by that I mean they try to counter-press, the opponent nearly escapes, and England make a foul, which means the game stops, they can get back in their defensive shape and again avoid a counter-attack. But when you play against a team the quality of France, you have to accept however good you counter-press, however clever you are with tactical fouls, there's going to be times where they find a way out of that press and do initiate a counter-attack. And then that rest defence position is going to be so important. Henderson's going to have to make very good decisions on when to go in the box and when to hold his position. Because if he does decide to go in the box and end up in that type of position, he is leaving a very big space behind him for Kyle Walker to have to control. So if he does decide to go in the box and get forward and get beyond Harry Kane, the winger, he's going to have to be aware that, one, he might get on the end of it, or that attack's going to end with the ball being out of play. Or two, he is leaving it open to a counter-attack. And that's why I think Henderson's going to be key in this game. His decision-making of when to hold his position and when to support the attack is going to be key. And his relationship and distance to Kyle Walker at all times is going to be important for England. Because if we look at how France have exposed some teams so far, we've seen this situation happen a lot. And this moment ultimately led to the winning goal, decisive goal for them against the Poland team. You can see now Poland's rest defence structure hasn't been as effective as it should have been. You've got the three defenders, but then no protection in front, which meant that a French player can turn and start to feed the likes of Mbappe in particular and Dembele on the far side. What will be important for England is the role of Declan Rice, to make sure that behind the ball while England are attacking, they've always got at least a 3 and a 1. So Walker, probably Stones, Maguire, and Declan Rice in a position where he can protect them against that counter-attack. And this is where Jordan Henderson comes in, because his experience and game intelligence will allow him to make good decisions. When does he make that rest defence structure 3-2? And when does he actually go and support the attack? And this could be key, because in those moments, it's either going to be an outcome where England get an overload in the French box, or 10 seconds later, they find themselves defending a situation in their own box. So very much a good tactical battle ahead. I'm looking forward to seeing how England manage the Mbappe situation, how they set their team up, and what France do to make sure that whatever England do to counteract Mbappe, they find ways to make him as effective. Certainly a game to look forward to. Hope everyone enjoys it.